I'm thinking of titling this video, Could 2024 Ruin Star Wars?
Because that's not clickbaity as hell.
Well, there's always the possibilities, so you can't really blame me for trying.
Yeah, true.
Welcome back to This is the Wayseekers, a podcast for Star Wars fans by Star Wars fans. My name's Austin SWE. I'm here with my co-host Scotty Holiday. Scotty, what's going on?
Hey, bestie.
Hello. We're excited to be back for this special episode of This is the Wayseekers. But first, This is the Wayseekers releases every other Friday at 8 a.m. Central Time. But we like to switch it up sometimes, so make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever you're listening so you never miss out on an episode. Scotty, what's on the agenda for this episode today?
We've got a lot to talk about today. It's 2024 now, so we've got to talk about everything that's coming out this year with Star Wars. We've got information on Star Wars Outlaws gameplay, plus John Williams may or may not be retiring anymore. So there's a ton we're going to get into. I'm excited.
Yes, super excited. Scotty, we haven't done an episode since the new year, since before Christmas. Did you get anything good Star Wars related for Christmas?
Yeah, I got some figures, I got some clothes, I got some books. But the one thing
Okay.
that I thought was really hilarious is I got a pop figure, and if
Nice.
you can see it, it's Paz Vizsla. And
Uh,
I opened it and I was kind of like, Paz Vizsla? Why the fuck did my stepdad get me Paz Vizsla? And then I look and you see what number it is? 666.
oh,
And so I made a joke about
666.
it, and he was like, it was literally between this and like an Obi-Wan figure, but the 666 is what sold it to get it for you. And I was like, that makes this gift so much more meaningful.
Yes, it's very personal. I love Paz Vizsla, so I love that you got that because we are Mandalorians. Speaking of Mandalorian, for Christmas, I got the physical releases of Mando Season 1 and Season
Ooh,
2.
okay, those were expensive. Come on, gifts.
I know, right? Thank you, Grandma. Shout out Grandma Penny. We appreciate it here at This is the Wayseekers. No, but it's really cool to have those on physical media now because we never
Yeah.
thought that was going to be a thing with those shows, you know? They were like so hell-bent on making sure you watched it on Disney Plus. So now in 10 years when they write off Disney Plus for tax reasons, I can make sure that my kids can watch The Mandalorian. So I'm excited.
Rip to Willow.
Yes, rip. All right, so like we said, this episode is our first episode back in the new year. And with the new year, we're all about resolutions, changing ourselves for the better. And so we're changing the show up just a little bit for the better. We're going to have
Just a little
actual
bit.
segments, an actual format. So we're a little organized in the new year. So
I
excited
love
about
that.
that. Our first segment that we're going to be doing every week is Hot Like Mustafar. Keeping it hot.
Ow,
There's
ow!
there's so many different topics. There's so many different news related things that come out for Star Wars each week. So we're going to cover them. We're going to talk about it briefly at the start of each episode. So starting off, we got some Star Wars Outlaws news, a game coming in 2024. The core gameplay loop has been revealed by Navid Kavari, the creative director, in his interview with Kotaku. Never heard of Kotaku before we had to research for this episode, but
You and I both.
shout out to them. They got an interview with Navid Kavari. Honestly, I feel like there's probably some like nice ass gaming article place. What am I looking
Probably.
for? News website, news outlet.
Yeah,
uh,
we're like gamer light, so we try to keep
yes,
up.
yes, yes. All right. So the core gameplay loop, that's going to be what we're actually doing in the game. So first off, there will be dense cities that have tons of activity, lively cantinas that you'll be able to explore and interact
Mhm.
with. In these locations, you'll see characters from crime syndicates and the Empire. And throughout your exploration, you can craft your story. So, very interesting there. Navid Kavari, he specifically mentioned in this that you'll see the crime syndicates mingling with the Empire, you know,
Ooh,
showing that they're a little
shady.
corrupt.
Just a little bit, but we already knew that. It'll
Right.
be nice to see it, though.
I know. Second is the exploration of these environments through foot or K speeder. So we'll get to travel around, walk around. But I'm excited for K speeder because I love a good vehicle to get through quickly.
Yeah, a little, not fast travel, but faster travel.
Yeah, yeah. For us impatient folks who are trying to get to
Yeah.
that final boss battle. All right, and the third is outer space, just outer space, which will apparently be fully explorable. And not only will it be fully explorable, but you'll be able to move through all of these activities seamlessly, making it a super immersive experience. So, in past video games like Battlefront, for example,
Battlefront.
yeah, we know you don't love it, but in there we see like flying in outer space,
Hmm.
and you can obviously do that, but it's separate from the gameplay on the ground, the fighting, the battles. So I'm excited to like hop in a ship and fly my ass to space.
Well, they were supposed to be able to do that in Battlefront. That was one of people's big complaints that that wasn't the case. I'm a little
Yeah.
nervous. I don't. Y'all have heard me talk about how I feel about Battlefront, but the only thing I'm going to say is the space combat was not amazing for me. So I'm a little nervous about
Oh,
getting into space in this game. Were you
right.
also horrible at it, or was it just me?
Fucking trash.
Okay,
I
good.
was so bad at flying a ship that it took me like 2 weeks to get through in the campaign. There's that mission where you're flying like a Cloud City car.
Oh, oh God,
Two
yeah,
weeks. two
rough.
weeks. And
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to admit that. All right.
Yeah, and I mean, we were both playing on easy too, and it was still horrible. So
I
hopefully,
know.
this game it'll be a little bit easier to maneuver.
Yes, yes. Come through for us, Ubisoft. But yeah, that's what we got for Star Wars Outlaws news.
Well, something that I'm excited about as a music person is John Williams has said he may or may not be retiring anymore. Initially,
Ooh.
he had teased to the Associated Press back in June of 2022 that Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny was going to be his final score, and then he was going to retire. And then come January of 2023, he was talking with Steven Spielberg and saying that he may not retire at all, or
Ooh.
at least just retire from scoring anything but Spielberg movies. So
Right.
then the plot thickens. This past December, when speaking with the Times UK, John Williams specifically said, if a film came along that I was greatly interested in with a schedule that I could cope with, then I wouldn't want to rule anything out. Everything is possible, all is before us. Only our limitations are holding us back. Or, to put it more simply, I like to keep an open mind.
Okay, Grandpa.
I know,
With
Grandpa. Speaking of, you know how old he turns?
how old?
92 next month. This
And he's
man's
still
gonna
gonna
be
be
92.
composing.
I mean, I know he mentioned only doing Spielberg movies. Maybe he's not retiring at all, but fingers
Mhm.
crossed. The Ray movie. I'd love
Yes.
that to continue to get scored by him. I
Oh,
don't know if I need the
100%.
Mandoverse from him, but like the more standalone Star Wars movies, Dawn of the
Mhm.
Jedi, he could do so much. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't
Yeah.
keep an artist down. We don't retire. Look at Hayao Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli. He's retired like 6 times. So this was
Yep.
inevitable. But I'm
It
thankful and we
yeah.
appreciate his work so much.
Yes. It shows the true passion he has. I mean, 92 years old to still be doing music is crazy, but, the passion is what keeps bringing him back. We saw since his retirement, he's done the Obi-Wan Kenobi main theme. He just did
Mhm.
Indiana Jones 5. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
really hope that he's coming back for this Rey movie because you've heard the story, right, of how Daisy Ridley and John Williams, they're pen pals. They're friends.
Oh, that's so cute. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, like during the initial recording for The Force Awakens, he just really fell in love with Daisy Ridley's presence on screen and gifted her the sheet music and everything, and she was there during the recordings of The
Oh
Force
my
Awakens.
god. I'd
And
cry. If I had
yeah,
my own Star Wars theme, but not only I had my own theme, but then the composer like gifted me the sheet music, like as a
right.
musician, I would oh my god, I'd feel so special. I know people are talking about they're hoping that if he does come back, he'll do a theme for Finn finally. So hopefully
Oh,
we'll see him in the Ray movie, even if he does
yes.
just does like uh a couple songs. As long as they get him with the right composer to do the rest of it, I think it'll meld really well.
Yes, 100%. All right, next up on here, we have a little fan shout out, fan film that I wanted to talk about here. I thought was really cool. It's a video by Hello There, and it took him and his team 3 years to complete. And that
Woo.
video is Anakin versus Obi-Wan from Revenge of the Sith in the Clone Wars animation style. Insane. The project, it was
Yeah.
first announced on Hello There's YouTube channel on July 20th, 2020, almost
Wow.
4 years ago.
That was before I was even making Star Wars content, so
Right, and now it just released on December 29th, 2023. And if that is not fan passion right there, the thing that keeps this fandom alive, then I don't know
Yeah,
what is. It's
for
crazy.
real. Did
And
you how many times have you watched it?
I watched it once, and I've seen the trailers and such throughout the years. Um, it's so impressive, especially when you consider that the Clone Wars was made for $1 million at least for each episode. So
True.
for a fan to be doing this with a small team, what I'm assuming was a small budget, 3 years, that's impressive. That's really impressive. And, it's one of those things like if Lucasfilm released a reanimation of Anakin versus Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars style, yeah, it'd be cool, but I'd be like, why are you wasting your resources on not telling new stories? So
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, it's great for fans to be able to do something like this. It really shows the passion.
Maybe I should DM them and ask them to do Dark Disciple next.
Yes, yes. I'm sure they can get that to you in 16 years.
Hey, I'm cool with that. Even a trailer, I'd probably cry. Could you
Yeah,
imagine that? I would probably cry. Um,
100%.
I feel like one thing that this short did for me is I was never a huge, like, y'all know I don't watch Marvel. That's awesome. That's your area. But I know everybody
Right.
talks about their What If series, and then there were the rumors about like seeing an alternate kind of thing with Ahsoka confronting Anakin on Mustafar. So seeing
Mm,
this fan film then got me thinking maybe I would be open to a What If series. Like,
right.
imagine them doing something like that. So it really got the gears turning. And just like you said, that's the great things about fan projects like this is that like the possibilities are endless, and it's just our
100%.
passion that drives us to create. And this is a clear indication of that. It was gorgeous.
Yes, yes. I'm 100% on board with you. I want to see a Star Wars What If, but I want it to be if they do a Star Wars What If, I want it to be like really creative ideas. Like
Yeah.
obviously with What If, everybody wants to see like what if Anakin never turned to the dark side. I want to see that
Hmm.
too. But I want to see things like what if you just, changed a little aspect, what would happen to the entire story? Like just a tiny little thing like what if a different Jedi came and found Anakin Skywalker? How would
Yeah.
his journey
What
look?
if what if Han Solo didn't complete the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs?
Right. He would
Who
have never got his
knows?
ego. All right, what we got left for High Like Mustafar?
So the Ahsoka series is a series that keeps on giving, and we got an
Right.
interview recently with Eman Esfandi with the Hollywood Reporter, kind of talking about how he landed the role of Ezra. I think my
Nice.
one of my favorite things about it was he basically said that he manifested getting this role. He essentially just went in, and 6 months before like anything had posted, he went to his manager, he went to his agent, was like, "When they post and start casting for Ezra, I want that role, and I'm going to have it." And it didn't come off in like a nasty way, but he was basically like, "This is a role that I really want, that I see myself in."
Right.
And from what we learned when he got the information back, it was for a character named Riz, and he had to film like a Top Gun scene self tape, the same one that
Nice.
I guess Natasha had to film for Sabine. And then he sent in his self tape and got offered the role the next day, which, as he put it, is like unheard of for TV
Mhm.
series, like just getting an offer off of a self tape. So I
Right.
thought that was really cool. And
He
like,
brought that Riz to Riz.
literally, like one of the other things that he had mentioned in there is instead of just going and watching Rebels because it's an
Mhm.
animated series, he almost treated it like he was doing like a biopic. So instead of just
Mm.
watching Ezra in the show, he researched Ezra and kind of
Mhm.
like his homeworld, his family, the things that happened, what he did.
Right.
And I know some people get upset when like the actors that come in for live action don't watch these shows, but I also feel like this is a really great way to get into it as well. I
Right.
mean, as he put it, he was like, "I'm not going to be moving around and acting like a character in animation because this is not animation." So
Mhm.
he kind of researched and got a feel for who Ezra was and then brought himself into that. And I think it really shows
Oh
in the
yeah.
series. Like, and knowing that they casted him just off like the self tape, like,
Right.
they knew that he was like the perfect Ezra for the role. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. I think Eman Esfandi, he's got to be the best actor to portray an animated character within Star Wars that wasn't originally voicing the character. Um, I saw too, like, people in his comments, they were all like, "You didn't watch, you didn't watch the full Star Wars Rebels? How dare you?" And it's like,
Yeah.
one, he did amazing. So whatever he did clearly
His
fucking
research,
worked,
he
right?
researched, he took the time to research the character.
And it
It's
worked.
it's almost more work, I feel like, to do research than just to
Hmm.
watch. I mean, both take up time and of course, but I
Right,
commend him for his work that he did, at least the way he
100%.
put it.
Yeah, but the thing is, he responded to some comments saying, "Well, I watched all of it afterwards, so
Yeah.
he knows it now. He knows everything that happened." But it's one of those things where it's like, he really only needs to understand those key important
Who
roles.
Ezra is,
Right,
like, not what Ezra did in the series, who
right.
he is as a character. And it's funny that you mention him, like, not doing Star Wars because he said he didn't grow up with Star Wars. And
Mhm,
in the article he mentioned, or in the interview, he had said that when Sabine was explaining to Ezra everything that he had missed,
mhm.
Sabine was also explaining it to Eman Esfandi because he didn't go and watch anything. He didn't grow up with
Mhm.
it. So of course he said he's watched it all now,
Yeah.
but he was
Now
like
he's like a
watching
super
this.
fan.
Yeah, and he was like going back and watching the series. It was just like laughing about it now because now he knows everything. But at the time he was like, "Oh, huh, that's cool."
Yeah.
Um, Something else I wanted to point out too is that they did ask about Ezra's future, and it was
Mhm,
interesting because Amon Esfandi was like, he thinks he's going to have a big role between now and the Dave Filoni Mandoverse movie. Obviously,
mhm,
there's an Ahsoka season 2, but the interesting part about it is he said with Ezra, he doesn't want Ezra to live on forever.
mhm,
He wants to play Ezra until Ezra's conclusion. So
mhm. Sounds
he
like a
kind
little
of
call out.
well,
Like
it's funny. It's funny because he compared himself to Han Solo and Harrison Ford, just being like
Oh.
he doesn't want to just kind of live on forever. He just wants to play Ezra and tell the story that they're telling, but he doesn't need it to be like, the rest of his life he is Ezra. And
Mhm.
I respect that because
Yeah,
I'd also like, just thinking about it as a fan, I'd much rather see his story rather
right.
than having just everything drawn out with Ezra forever. I feel like
Mhm.
some people are getting that with Ahsoka fatigue, but that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really nice attitude for him to have though, because I feel like, in Hollywood you see so many times a lot of actors or actresses, they have a huge ego, They
Yeah.
make sure in their contracts it said that they can't lose a fight in a fucking superhero movie. So, it's nice to,
Oh my
hear.
god.
Yeah, yeah.
I had no idea. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, shout
Ew.
out Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson for that one. But, yeah, it's nice to see somebody who's like, "I'm here to serve a purpose for a story and, serve this character, and I want
Mhm.
to, tell a beautiful story with the character." So, shout out to Eman Esfandi, great guy. Also follows us on Twitter, so
Yeah, so Iman, if you're watching, you're great. Thank you for
yes,
giving us an amazing Ezra, and we hope
100%.
to see it continue as well.
Yes. Well, speaking of continuing, let's get to our main topic, talking about what's happening in 2024. Got lots of shows, some games, books coming out.
A
It's a
lot.
it's an interesting year for Star Wars fans. I almost feel like compared to some of the recent years with Star Wars, we got like a Obi-Wan Kenobi series, an Ahsoka series, huge things like that are
Yeah.
like huge for Star Wars fans. I almost feel like this year is going to be not less fun or anything, but more like a breeze. We're getting a lot of new stuff here, like new
Yes.
shows, new eras.
New
Um,
eras. That's what I'm most excited about. We're doing
mhm,
High Republic. We're
yes,
doing stuff in the prequels. We're doing stuff in sequels. We're doing stuff in the dark times. Like,
right.
there's a lot coming up.
Yes, I'm excited. So why don't you start us off with what we can expect probably first in 2024?
So, of course, we've got The Bad Batch Season 3, the final season of The Bad Batch, which I
Hmm.
know I'm really excited about. I know you're really excited about.
Yeah.
Thank you to everybody who filled out the poll on our community page on YouTube. Y'all are all really excited about it too. Um,
Yes.
so in season 2, we kind of left off with Sid betraying the Bad Batch to the Empire. Omega was captured by Dr. Hemlock and taken to Mount Tantus, where she was reunited with Crosshair, though it was a bittersweet reunion because they're kind of stuck there. And
Right.
the reveal that the scientist that's kind of working with them, Emery, is not only a scientist, but she said she's Omega's sister because she's also a clone,
Right.
which was kind of insane. Like, we all kind of thought it because she had the accent,
Yeah.
but like that confirmation, it almost added like a really dark undertone to
Yeah.
what exactly is going on at Mount Tantus, which already has like a lot of intrigue, mystery, but like darkness.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like another level to that. And of course, we can't forget about sweet baby Tech,
Oh no.
who, as far as we know, is possibly dead. But
Yeah.
that's something I wanted to ask you. Do you think that he is actually dead, or are you going to say, we didn't see a body, and if we don't see a body in Star Wars, then
Yeah. I think it's one of those cases now where they've like done it so many times that it's like a little obvious. Like at this point in
yeah,
Star Wars, like I know it's a joke, like, oh, if you don't see a body, then they're not actually dead. But I almost feel like going forward with Star Wars, because of all the fake out deaths,
yeah,
I think that the story almost needs to include something like that. Like Andor, when someone dies, they have to show that that person's fucking dead. Like
hmm
I feel like in Star Wars, if someone's going to die, you have to show that. Otherwise, I don't believe it. So I'm sure we'll have Tech coming back for season 3.
I
Also, his voice actor is listed in the thing. So
his voice actor,
his
yeah.
voice actor who voices all the clones, he's listed in the casting sheet. Coincidence? I think not.
Oh my god. Um, I I love Tech. Echo and Tech are my
Mm,
favorite.
mhm.
But I kind of would prefer Tech to be dead because
Yeah.
it just raises the stakes. And like you said, like when a character dies and that emotional impact that it had on so many people with Tech, you're
Mhm.
just gonna undo all of that. And
Yeah.
the batch, they can't live on forever, unfortunately.
Mhm.
There has to be some consequences. Like,
Yeah.
did I want Tech to be the one? No,
Yeah.
but
But we knew
it.
after they gave all that development to Tech
Uh
that
huh.
it was done for him.
I know. It was like it's either him or Echo because they got pretty popular this season. But
Yeah.
I'm interested to see too what happens with Crosshair because he kind of had his turn
Mhm.
towards the end of season 2, and obviously the Bad Batch are going to go rescue Omega. But like, is Crosshair actually going to go back with his brothers this time? I'm interested.
Please.
We'll
Lord
see.
knows that I am a sucker for a redemption story. What they've been doing with Crosshair and the Bad Batch, I'd argue it's some of the best of the Bad Batch, the best of Star Wars altogether. That that Crosshair episode that were like focused on him, especially after like half the season didn't include him at all. Like that
Yeah.
was a banger episode. Probably the best episode of the Bad Batch, you know?
Well, it's kind of like when we get a Crosshair episode, at least in season 2, it was like, oh, we know this is going to be a really intense one.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I loved that. Plus, we got the hot clone Mayday, R.I.P. But on that snowy planet where they kind of got
Yes.
like stuck together, and then they were like
Hmm.
cuddling, and it was cute, but not really because they're brothers.
Hmm.
But I was
Yeah.
like, oh, Crosshair.
Yeah.
That was like his turning point.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. I've talked about in the past how Bad Batch. It's not my favorite show of Star Wars, but I feel like everything that they have set up for season 3 so far, I feel like they're about to really drive it in with this conclusion. And it's nice for a series to get a fucking conclusion.
Yes, I was literally if you didn't say it, I was about to say the same thing. They're actually getting to, like, get to their conclusion that they
Hmm.
planned, which,
Yeah,
looking at you, Clone Wars, like, Rebels
I
had
know.
a true ending. Bad Batch is
Hmm.
getting a true ending as well, so I'm happy also for all the people behind the show. Like,
Yeah.
they get to finish telling the story that they started, so that's great.
Yes. Breaking
And
the
that's
curse.
that's rare in this day and age, like
Hmm.
with all these cancellations. So I
Yes.
think it's gonna be good. I think it's gonna be heartbreaking, but
Hmm.
I'm really excited too.
Yes. All right. Well, this next series is probably the one that we're both most excited for. I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the gay one.
Yes, it's the gay one. It's for us. All right. The Acolyte is a new Star Wars show coming in 2024. Leslie Headland is show running. There's an entire team of writers on this show, an entire writers room, which is a change of pace from some of
We
the
love
other
that.
shows. Before Andor was the closest. Andor had a 5 days writer room, and then they all
Ooh,
split apart and wrote the episodes separately.
well, we see how that went.
It went perfectly, but I'm still excited to see a proper writers room.
True.
This is more just a call out to Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, who insist on writing their entire fucking show, which brings in no new voices, no new perspectives, you know. But anyways, The Acolyte. Besides being a queer show, it's a mystery thriller that will take viewers into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era. Shout out.
Yeah.
A former Padawan reunites with her Jedi Master to investigate a series of crimes, but the forces they confront are more sinister than they ever anticipated. Uh, what a synopsis. I'm excited because,
Yeah.
we talked about in the beginning on your Funko Pop, it says 666. We know you're a dark girly and you're ready for you're ready for this dark show, right?
Hell yeah, I am. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm so excited about this show. I mean, just calling it a mystery thriller, like,
Mhm.
and I almost feel like this is in what we'll talk about in a second with Skeleton Crew. I feel like for this show, it's selling it, being like, "Ooh,
Yeah.
there's gonna be so much intrigue," and it's purposeful. Whereas, like with the one we'll talk about in a second, it's just like we don't know
Mhm.
anything about it. Um,
Yeah.
I'm really excited just to get even if it's not a full-on dark side story, I'm excited to get a story
Mhm.
with dark side elements where it's not just like, oh, here's the villain scenes, because like in the prequel trilogy, we have our little Emperor and Maul scenes, we have our Count Dooku and Sidious.
Mhm.
Uh, so it's just I'm excited to finally maybe get a peek behind the Sith
Yeah.
curtain of it,
Oh yeah.
and this is a fun time too because they're going to be gearing up for the next phase with it
Mhm.
going into and obviously it's before the prequel trilogy, but I imagine like we're going to see things falling into place.
Yeah.
I imagine there's phases to the Sith grand plan, so
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm excited to see too, especially because we know Leslie Headland. She's a huge fan of the Legends expanded universe. So
yeah,
I'm sure we're gonna see some ties into like the Darth Plagueis novel.
I
We
hope
might need to
so.
read that before the show comes out. We might need to make that a thing.
Well, I have it saved on Spotify as the audiobook. It's supposedly
Slay.
free, but yeah, I feel like after reading Shadow of the Sith, I need another darker
Mm-hmm.
story. I want more.
Yeah, yeah. And James Luceno, he's such an amazing fucking writer. So
People love that book.
yeah, yeah. I think it's time. I think it's time. But leading the show is Amandla Stenberg,
Oh yeah.
Queen. And she was recently seen in Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Did you see that movie?
No, but I heard it was really good.
I pass by it on Hulu all the time.
Maybe we need
uh,
to watch that too.
yep, we got some
Support our
homework.
non-binary queen.
Yes. Joining Stenberg are Lee Jung Jae, Manny Jacinto, Daphne Keene, Jodie Turner Smith, Rebecca Henderson, Charlie Burnett, Dean Charles Chapman, Carrie Ann Moss, Margarita Laviva, and Eunice Suetamo. What a
Yeah.
fucking cast. Big ass cast.
Yeah.
Eunice Suetamo, my boy Chewbacca, but he's not playing Chewbacca. He's playing a Wookiee Jedi, which, fuck yeah.
Uh yeah, because we know they're so rare and that's
Mm-hmm.
been made a point in canon. I know there's
Mm-hmm.
who is it, Buryaga, who's like the Wookiee
Buryaga.
Jedi that's popular in the High Republic. It's not
Yeah.
Buryaga,
You can't
but
forget Gunji.
can't forget Gunji. Well, we don't know how old Gunji is. I guess he could have been alive.
Seems like 5.
Okay,
He's a
so
little
then
kid.
no. No. He'll live a while, but he's not living yet. Um, did you watch Squid Game? Because that's
Yes.
where Lee Jung
Lee
Jae is
Jung Jae.
from, and that's
Yeah.
kind of where everyone kind of knows his name. I didn't
Mhm.
watch it, but I also heard it was really good.
Yeah, 100%. I'm really excited to see him in the show. It's really cool. Star Wars has done this a few times, taking a foreign actor, putting him in Star Wars, which is an American, UK centered
Yeah.
franchise, And so we're getting like non-English speaking actors in this show, or bilingual actors, I should say, because obviously to be in the Acolyte, he would have to speak English at least a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's cool that they're doing that because some people like anytime he showed up at Celebration or stuff, he seems very excited.
Hmm.
He has his translator there. And I know there are shitty people, shitty directors out there that would be like, "Oh, no, that's too much to deal
Yeah.
with. We'll just get somebody that speaks English." But I love that it seems like he is just as much a part of the cast as
Hmm.
everybody else is, and they're all just
Hmm.
having fun together. I'm
Yeah.
excited for Jodie Turner Smith. I know nothing about her, but she's fucking stunning, and I'm hoping
Yes.
she is going to be a baddie.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, there's some really cool names in here. It seems like Lee Jong Jae is going to be the master with
Hmm.
Amandla playing the apprentice.
Hmm.
So I'm interested to see. It sounds like they like switch sides and whatnot. So that's really cool. We know Rebecca Henderson. She's playing Vernestra Rowe, a
Yeah.
character from the High Republic books, which
The-
again is really cool to have a director. And I say this every time we talk about the Acolyte on the podcast, but I'm gonna say it again.
of course.
The fact that Leslie Headland gets, they're trying to make her the next person to hate on for Star Wars and whatnot. The fact that that's the case for somebody who's coming in and literally knows about Star Wars the way that
Hmm.
we do,
Hmm.
knows the fucking books and is going to put
Yeah,
characters from the books into the show. Come on.
because why not? Why not?
Why not? I think it's something that Star Wars fans should be appreciative of. We read those books and now we're going to be rewarded by seeing them on screen. I think that's really cool.
I'm shaking my head in agreement, like I actually read them. But one thing I'm curious about, because I do know some stuff about the High Republic, I'm curious if we're going to see her light whip,
Oh yeah. That would be
because
really cool.
that would be like the first light whip. Well, I don't even know if we've ever seen one in animation, or I know we haven't seen it in live action. I'm pretty sure the closest thing that comes to it is like the Zygerian like slave whips from the Clone Wars, which
Right.
I guess you could count that. I don't know if that's obviously probably more electric, but I'm
Yeah.
excited. I think it'll be really interesting. And she wields a purple lightsaber, right?
Yes. Yes indeed.
So Mace Windu, watch out because you
Yes.
ain't gonna be the only one. And just all the Jedi that we're gonna see in this. We've both
Hmm.
seen the leaked footage. Just that scene of everybody like there's like seven of them just all lighting up their lightsabers. It's
Yeah.
gonna be mystical, mysterious, thrilling.
We
Yeah,
need
I'm
it.
excited.
Put it in my veins. All right, what we got next?
So I kind of already alluded to this, but we also have Skeleton Crew coming out, which Skeleton Crews are part of the Mandoverse. And it's going to follow the journey of four kids who make a mysterious discovery on their seemingly safe home planet, then get lost in a strange and dangerous galaxy. Finding their way home and meeting unlikely allies and enemies will be a greater adventure than they ever imagined. And I know a
All
lot
right.
of people behind the scenes are like comparing it to the Goonies, like 80s
Hmm.
kind of films like that.
Amblin
And
Entertainment. Yeah.
yes, I was like,
Hmm.
what's the other thing that they always say? Amblin Entertainment. And this poor show just keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed.
I
We don't really
know.
know anything about it, like I already said. We just both, I hadn't seen it at all before, but I just sent you last night
Oh
the part
yeah.
of like the leaked trailer. So that was my first time seeing it.
What'd you
And
think?
so I thought that it looks very interesting. It
Hmm.
almost, it's funny, it almost had like an Andor feel to it for me.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
At least with the sets
The
and the
New Republic
backdrop.
sets, especially.
Exactly, and I really like that, and I mean, we've
Hmm.
talked about it before, Andor looks amazing, so if
Yes.
shows can pull from that, why the fuck would they not? Instead
Right.
of having everything in, circle vision. So,
Hmm. Well,
know.
you know why I think you get that Andor feeling from the trailer. It's because I feel like Andor does this really well, where it makes
Mhm.
it feel very human or very grounded to where it's relatable.
Yes.
We see things like blue noodles or people going to work or
Yeah.
things like that. Like we see a neighborhood in Star Wars of like real people. I feel like it's the same vibe here. We see like an apartment You saw that shot of like it seemed like they're kind of in some sort of apartment.
And then, like, an
Um,
office or New Republic facility.
yeah,
Yeah,
so it feels
that's
very real.
that's a good thing to point out for sure because Andor was like the first like real life Star Wars story you
Hmm.
could say in this new era. And if we get something similar to that again, just in a
Hmm.
different time in the galaxy, I think that'll be cool to kind of see what remained, what's changed like within the universe.
Right, 100%.
Now, the show's created by the MCU Spider-Man director John Watts and written by
Hmm.
Chris Ford. It's supposedly, we kind of touched on this before, going to have a very Spielberg-esque like ET or Close Encounters kind of feel to it.
Heck
I
yeah.
know Jude Law's character is most likely like 99% confirmed Force sensitive. I
Yeah,
guess.
he's a Order 66 survivor.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it had been confirmed yet or not, but
Hmm.
I know they said there's a scene from the trailer where he like or somebody, I don't know if it's him, grabs something with the Force, and that was like in the trailer. I
Mm.
guess it was cut out from the one that, I just saw, but like I said, that was my first time. But that's really intriguing. People complain
Hmm.
if they want about another Order 66 survivor, whatever, let them be. Like
Hmm.
it, it'll
100%.
it'll be cool. And from what a lot of people have mentioned, and even in the trailer, we see Vane, the pirate,
Hmm.
from Mando season 3. So it doesn't even seem like it's going to necessarily be really force heavy anyway,
Hmm.
other than just kind of having this force user Order 66 survivor is kind of more of an
Yeah.
older mentor to kind of keep the kids
Yeah.
safe. Like, I don't know if we'll even see him use a lightsaber. If not, that's fine. It could be
Hmm.
like a Kanan situation where, he starts out just, using a blaster, but then there's kind of that big reveal moment. That'd be
Hmm.
something really cool to see too if they pulled off something like that in the show.
Yeah. I honestly think Skeleton Crew is gonna be one of the sleeper hits. Like, I don't think that people are
Yeah.
going to appreciate it.
Like Andor.
Yeah. But I think that, like, when all of this is said and done, I think we're gonna look back and be like, "We really had it with Skeleton Crew." Like, you
If
know?
they would just give us more information about it, give us something to get excited about, like,
Mhm.
we didn't go to Celebration, so, like, hypothetically, there's no way for us to know anything about it,
Mhm.
and they won't tell
Yeah.
us anything about it really other than, "Oh, it's like the Goonies, it's like Amblin
Mhm.
Entertainment Films," and it's like, okay, how many times can you say that?
Right.
Like,
Well, since we don't know anything about it, do you wanna real quickly hear some of my theories about what it could possibly be?
I love theories and
Okay.
speculation, so of course.
Alright, so we know that Vane is in it from Mando
Yes.
season 3, and I feel like Mando season 3 might have been, like, a backdoor pilot for Skeleton Crew.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time Mando was a backdoor pilot.
Right. We know Jude Law is a teacher, and we know that these kids are from some sort of school together. What has a
Okay.
school and teachers from Mando season 3?
Oh,
Navarro.
Navarro.
We know that Vane has beef with Navarro, so
Mhm.
that could possibly be it. Some more connections here. We keep hearing them bring up in the synopsis a galaxy, a dangerous galaxy, which means that it's not the galaxy we know from Star Wars. What show in the Mandoverse just introduced a new galaxy?
Oh,
Ahsoka.
Ahsoka and Peridia, yeah.
I think that they've been planting the seeds for this show for quite a while now.
Well, hopefully we'll find out in December.
Yes. December or whenever it comes out. If it's coming in December, it'll be like December 29th. So
Oh my god, I know they'll be like coming this winter and it's December 31st. Like,
yes. All right. Star Wars Outlaws. Talked a little bit about it in the beginning, but
yeah.
just a little refresher. It's obviously a game made by Ubisoft, said to be the first Star Wars open world game. It's going to be super immersive. You get to tell your own story, you know, play around in the Star Wars sandbox. Uh, Takes place in between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi and focuses on the crime syndicates of the galaxy through the eyes of a newer scoundrel, Kay Vess, someone who's just trying to get into that world. I think it's gonna be a great fucking game.
I think it's going to be cool too. Something I wanted to bring up that we didn't touch on earlier, from the Kotaku article
Mhm.
is something that was mentioned from the creative director is that we're going to see Jabba and you can
Oh
work
yeah.
for him. but they mentioned that we'll also see other familiar faces, kind of alluding
Mhm.
to maybe other familiar crime bosses. We both know we love
Kira.
Kira. You know where I was going with this. So, bring us Kira. That's honestly, it's not going to ruin the game for me if she's not in it, but like that's one of the big parts about the game that I'm like, please give us like a Crimson Dawn Kira reveal. They keep saying they planned it for the perfect time
Yeah.
in galactic history between Empire and Return of the Jedi, and that's when everything was going down with Crimson Dawn's reemergence in the comics.
Yep.
So, kind of touching on like what we said about Leslie has Headland and the Acolyte, you have this stuff that's already here. Why
Mhm.
not bring in what works?
Yeah.
You and I have talked about it with Dave Filoni becoming the chief creative director,
Something
chief
like that.
creative officer,
The man in
uh,
charge.
the creative man in charge, and pulling from what they already have. Of course, we want to see new, and we're going to have Toshara, which is like the new
Mhm.
planet they're having in the Ashiga clan, the new criminal syndicate. But
Mhm.
also, like, if there's these other things that are going on in the galaxy that are big galactic wide events, you would think they would
Right.
play into it. So
100%. And we've seen I think it was Star Wars Explained who did a little interview with the team of Ubisoft, and there with them was some story group members like Matt Martin. We know the story group is the team that, keeps the continuity of Star Wars, whether they're good or bad at it, that's their job. And they seem very excited with Star Wars Outlaws about telling this story, like you said, within that time period. So I would be very shocked if some of these comic tie-ins, or not tie-ins, but like the comics that take place in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, if they don't connect to this game in some way, I'm gonna be real shocked.
Yeah, and because they show Han Solo arriving at Jabba's palace in the trailer,
Yes.
that's literally like the ending of kind of the whole Crimson Dawn
War of
battle,
the Bounty
War of
Hunters.
the Bounty Hunters comic series. It's all about Kira stealing Han Solo from Boba Fett and
Hmm.
kind of the fallout from that.
Yeah.
Also, I do want to give a quick shout out as well to Alex, Star Wars Explained, because he also asked them if they knew that ND5 was sexy or gonna be sexy. So I love him for that. That was
Hmm.
probably the funniest thing. Like, I just
Yeah.
like imagine doing an interview with game creative directors and be like, do you know the horny Star Wars fans thought this droid was really sexy? Was that planned?
Apparently it wasn't. I was very
Yeah.
shocked. I was like, so you're telling me you put that tall, slim droid in a trench coat
Skinny, slutty little waist.
and didn't think anything of it? All right, all right. Somebody's
Yeah,
clearly queer on the team over there.
as they should be. Um,
Yes.
but moving on from Outlaws, because we've talked about it a ton already, something I'm really
Yes.
excited about too is Tales of the Jedi Season 2. We don't know a ton about it yet, just that Dave Filoni confirmed that we're getting it and that it's on Disney's official press releases for the
Hmm.
year. Um, we're assuming it's also written by Dave Filoni, with 6 episodes focusing on 2 Jedi. I know something I've heard a lot about is tossed around as Balin. Um,
Mm, yeah.
now I'm gonna make a controversial statement
Okay.
and say I don't necessarily want this to be Balin's backstory told, just because it's such a wide universe, and
Hmm.
presumably we're still gonna get more of Balin's story in the future. I just think it would be kind of, I don't know, not cheesy, but just like really you want to tell another Balin story. Like I love Balin, and rest in
Hmm.
peace Ray Stevenson for his amazing performance and bringing that character to life. But I'm like, that kind of corporate synergy of it all is kind of what makes me turned off towards Balin. What do you think though?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely get where you're coming from. It's like I said in the beginning with the Hello There production. It's like it's really cool that a fan did that, but if Lucasfilm did that, I'd be like, come on now, man. We already got Revenge of the Sith. What's going on?
Yeah,
So I feel you, but I can't say I agree because I feel
I
like
knew that was coming.
so like with Dave Filoni, like I don't know, it's hard because I feel like he's been put in this box of having to be like corporate synergy, especially now that he's like the boss. But we know with Tales of the Jedi, it's a little different. We know that, Dave Filoni wrote these, well, season
True.
one, he wrote it on an airplane. It wasn't like he was. It was almost like he was writing fan fiction essentially. It wasn't
Yeah.
like it was going to be a thing and then it became a thing. So I feel like if there was a Balin Skull story, I don't know, because I also feel like yes, his story will continue, but how many chances are we going to get to tell his backstory? I
I mean, they
mean,
can tell it. I don't want them to never tell it. I'm just like, do we need it right now?
well, my thing is like within the Mandoverse, like where unless they did like a Balin Skull series, like
Balin Skull book done.
they're not gonna do that.
Why not?
I mean they might write a book, but like they're the Mandoverse. I mean, first of all, the Mandoverse it had books that was coming out, and then they all got canceled because
Well, did they get canceled because of Gina Carano or because of other
no,
bullshit behind the scenes?
they got canceled, and Disney and Lucasfilm did like an actual release on why they got canceled because Shadow of the Sith writer Adam Christopher he was supposed to write the novel for Mando. It's because the story is
Uh,
ever changing that there's no
yes.
concrete place yet to tell a
Okay.
story and not get retconned. So, and we talked about this before. John Favreau and Dave Filoni, they don't do writers' rooms. We know Dave Filoni, he doesn't love a collaboration. So, I don't see them telling Balin Skull's story in a book. And I also, fans aren't gonna read that. If they got a Balin Skull book out, are you gonna drop all the other books you want to read that one first?
I'm not reading anything right now, so sure, why not?
All right, touche,
Well,
touche.
let can I play devil's advocate then and ask you,
Yeah, go
other
ahead.
than Balin,
666.
other than Balin, who would you like to see a Jedi story about? Because we know there's going to be another, like, assuming if it's like season one, there's going to be two specific Jedi. They worked in a kind of a parallel before,
Mhm.
but they don't necessarily have to do that. Is there somebody else that you want to see a story or think that we're going to see a story about?
Um, I want to see Plo Koon because Dave Filoni loves Plo Koon,
Yeah.
and if we're gonna get stories written by somebody, I want it to be a story they're passionate about. And we know that Dave Filoni has talked about in the past how he has Plo Koon stories. I mean, when Ahsoka was announced in Tales of the Jedi that there was gonna be like a baby Ahsoka episode, the first place everyone's mind went to was Plo Koon. He's the one that found her, so I
Dave
feel like it's
Filoni
happening.
Dave Filoni has really made me love Plo Koon. Like, he's one of my
Hmm.
favorite
Oh
Jedi
yeah.
from like the prequel era. Like,
Oh yeah.
obviously I have others, but like in like a collective, he's top tier for me. I'm still hoping we'll get whatever Barris story was going to happen. We
Mm,
know she didn't
yeah.
become an Inquisitor, and I'm like, her story's so open ended. I'm not going to say anything about Ventress because we all know how I feel about that. But like, kind of the same thing with Barris. It's like, um, can we get an ending to her story, please?
Yeah. Yeah. I also would like to see them correct some wrongs, maybe, with
Yeah,
Barris's character. And I hate to say it, but I don't see Dave Filoni being the one to correct those wrongs, being that he's the one that did those wrongs in the first place. Maybe his mind's changed over the last 12 years. Who knows?
you know who could maybe be good at that? Speaking of books,
Who?
Delilah S. Dawson,
Oh yeah.
because she likes to write violent women, and
Hmm.
where Barris kind of had that more violent turn, I could see her starting the story kind of in that mindset, and
Hmm.
then building it out and kind of more bringing Barris to a place of peace by the end of it,
Hmm.
and back to more of, I guess, more balanced would be the best way to put it. I think she'd do a really good job at that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Especially, I haven't read Rise of the Red Blade yet, but Phasma, yeah, I would love to see it. I just need someone that's going to treat her character with nuance. I don't want them to
Correct.
go back and, erase what happened. Like, I don't want them to decanonize anything. But like you said, a story that like brings her to peace. For me with Barris, I would want to see her and Ahsoka make
Make out? No.
I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. I want to see them make up and maybe make out because Ahsoka, she needs a little something in her life.
She's Ahsoka the White now. All she needs is her staff and she's good to go. Uh
Oh.
but yeah, I want to see them make up too. I need to see them hugging out.
Hmm. Yeah. All right. This next one, The Living Force, a new book coming. in 2024 by John Jackson Miller.
Mm.
I'm very excited for this book. I think it's going to be real cool. The synopsis goes as followed. As yet another Jedi outpost left over from the Republic's Golden Age is set to be decommissioned on the planet Quen, Qui-Gon Jinn challenges the Jedi Council about the Order's increasing isolation. Mace Windu
Mm.
suggests a bold response. All 12 Jedi Masters will embark on a goodwill mission to help the planet and to remind the people of the galaxy that the Jedi remain as stalwart and present as they have been across the ages. Stalwart, is that right?
Maybe that's Star Wars Walmart.
uh,
Stalewart?
yeah, I don't know. Oh well. Um, But the arrival of the Jedi leadership is not seen by all as a cause for celebration. In the
Mm.
increasing absence of the Jedi, warring pirate factions have infested the sector. To maintain their dominance, the pirates unite, intent on assassinating the Jedi Council members, and they are willing to destroy countless innocent lives to secure their power. Cut off from Coruscant, the Jedi Masters must reckon with an unwelcome truth. While no one thinks more about the future than the Jedi Council, nobody needs their help more than those living in the present.
True.
Very interesting story here. I think that this is such a unique idea.
Yeah.
Same with the next one we're talking about. Like these prequel era stories, it's really cool to just see how they're able to find ways to tell new stories within that era. And I also feel like the time between the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, it's
That's a
not really
good chunk of
explored.
time.
Yeah, 10 years and it's not really explored ever. So,
I I think it's funny that like we said with this and the Glass Abyss that we'll talk about next, Qui-Gon is getting the spotlight this year. They said,
mhm.
"Oh, if Liam Neeson ain't gonna come back for shows because he thinks we're doing too much, we'll just write him in books." So
Yeah.
this is really interesting, and when the book's over and the Jedi Council come back to report on the mission, Qui-Gon was just laughing, being like, "Yeah, this is why I told you to get out of your fucking temple and get into the galaxy where like
Yeah.
things are happening." It's
Mhm.
interesting because I know some people have been talking about in recent years how Mace Windu's kind of been portrayed
A
as an
dickhead?
asshole, a dickhead.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that seeing more of him, it'll give him more nuance and less of just
Mhm.
like basically I stick to all the rules and,
Yeah.
you know, I just sit in my temple
Mhm.
and tell people yes or no all day long.
Yeah.
Um, I'm hoping that they do some work on his character. Uh,
Mm.
any more Qui Gon stories? Like I
Yeah.
love Qui Gon,
Yeah.
so any more of
He's
him, I'm excited to get.
yeah, he's one of the most interesting Jedi, and I think that it's very telling that every time they tell a prequel story, it's like, how can we involve Qui-Gon Jinn? Yeah, especially in these books.
He got his backdoor pilot in Tales of the Jedi. People are like, oh, they loved him, so
Yes.
let's give him more.
Yeah. I'm really excited about the dynamic here to really explore the Jedi Council and how they
Yeah.
work together because it's like the way John Jackson Miller has described it is that it's like a road trip. Like a family road trip. They're not going to get along. There's going to be,
Yeah.
are we there yet? Like all that type of shit. And so I'm really excited to just see how that works. And one thing that I think is really cool about pretty much all these stories that are kind of taking shape in the prequel era and also the High Republic era, it seems like the main goal of this era is to tell the story and enrich the story of how the Jedi fell, how they lost their way. And so you have stories like this, or like the Acolyte talking about how we're going to explore how the Sith came in, or this one talking about an outpost from the Republic's golden age. It's set to be decommissioned, and that's kind of the catalyst of this story. The Republic's
Yeah.
golden age is the High Republic. And again, this is going to really dive into what separates Qui-Gon Jinn from the Jedi Council, which is a huge
Mhm.
reason, a huge way to look into why they fell. So I'm excited for that.
Well, and we know too, like in Clone Wars season 7 with Trace and Rafa Martez, like
Hmm.
they talked about how the Jedi basically did not show their faces. And
Right.
when, the thing happened with their parents and Luminara, we assume Luminara, but it's like all but confirmed, was just kind of like, well, it was the will of the Force. Have a nice day. So
Yeah.
it's like they just sit in their office all day and they've kind of stopped being, I mean, Jedi
Peacekeepers.
almost and
Right.
peacekeepers. Yeah, they've gone all political here. Um,
Hmm. They
I
gone
actually
woke.
the Jedi Council, they got the opposite of woke. They were woke. Uh, now
Yes.
they've gotten more
They took the
conservative.
red pill.
I just also hope, like, give Operansis something to do, give Jarl Poof something to do.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, Master Rancisis got mentions in Jedi Survivor, um, and like he had a model in the Clone Wars, but like we didn't go on any
Yeah.
missions with him. We didn't go on any missions with Jarl Poof, and
Hmm.
there's some of the people that I feel like are more unexplored. So I'm hoping, kind
Hmm.
of talking about how it's going to be like a family road trip that we're maybe going to get an insight into where each master is kind of at with the
Yeah.
state of the galaxy with this mission specifically as
Yeah.
well.
Well, there's one thing that John Jackson Miller said, which is that every person on the Jedi Council will get a point of view chapter, at
Hell
least one,
yeah.
which is going to be interesting to see. Like, Light of the Jedi, first High Republic book, love that book. But one of the things I always struggle with is like, who is who is the main protagonist of that book?
That's
And
true.
there's so many different perspectives that it gets confusing. But I think with all of them being on a mission together, it'll be less telling different stories and more like telling the
Yeah.
same story through their perspective.
I agree. I think A Shadow of the Sith helped me
Oh yeah.
when it comes around to jumping around in different perspectives. So I feel prepared. So thank you, Adam Christopher. Uh,
Yes.
but we keep talking about it. We're getting these stories set in the prequel era. I already mentioned it, The Glass Abyss by Stephen Barnes. We're also getting that this year. According to the synopsis for this book, the Jedi are reeling from Qui-Gon Jinn's sudden death at the hands of the Sith. Jedi Master Mace Windu's feelings about Qui-Gon have always been complicated and have not been made any simpler in death. While they often disagreed, Mace valued Qui-Gon's unique perspective, and their shared dedication to the Force made them allies. Without Qui-Gon and his unorthodox views, Mace feels out of balance. I'm very interested to see if these two books that we're talking about are going to play into each other at all, too.
Yeah.
Because once again, we got a. This is going to be a bit of a Qui-Gon story. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Even though it's
Yeah.
going to be Mace Windu kind of following in his footsteps. Uh,
It's gonna be a homoerotic novel between Qui-Gon
oh,
Jinn and Mace Windu.
oh. Well, we do know that maybe we'll get like a background chapter of them having some angry like sex post their mission.
Right. I
To
mean, we know that Mace Windu doesn't show feelings very much, but in this synopsis, it's like he's being a little crybaby about his long lost boyfriend.
well, it does say, his feelings about Qui-Gon have always been complicated.
Ooh.
So, um, speaking of, while considering his fallen friend's legacy, Mace is surprised to receive a final message from Qui-Gon, marked to be delivered to Mace on the event of Qui-Gon's death. So this shit was already planned. Like Qui-Gon specifically
Yep.
recorded this message for him, and it's a plea to help the Outer Rim planet of Matagos.
Hell yeah.
These planet names in these books are a little odd to me. Matagos and what was the other one? Quen.
Yeah.
Interesting,
Very.
but you know, with the Mace Windu story, he's going to travel to the planet, infiltrate the enemies of the. Here's another fun name: the Saad,
Okay.
SA''AD.
Okay. Let's a hot.
But the big thing about it is in the synopsis and on the article about it on StarWars.com. What I'm most interested in is that Mace going on this mission is going to force him to kind of to his limit with his boundaries of the Jedi Code, challenging his beliefs in his relationship with the Force itself. And that's
Mm.
where I think maybe if we don't get this kind of more humanization of Mace Windu in the Living Force, we may see a more human and nuanced side of Mace after he goes through this experience. Because
Right.
it's kind of like in Jedi Fallen Order, Cal is following in the footsteps of Cordova. In this
Mm.
book, Mace is going to be following in the footsteps of Qui Gon, and we know they
Hmm.
are completely different Jedi.
Yeah.
So, and the way they go about being a Jedi. So,
Hmm.
it's going to be. I think it's going to be a good story, and I think the Mace Windu fans, especially the ones that are upset at his portrayal as of late, I think
Hmm.
this is going to be really something for them to really enjoy. I think we'll
Oh
enjoy
yeah,
it too. I mean, are you
oh
excited
yeah,
about it?
100%. Mace Windu, he's a character that, like you said, he's been through the ringer the last few years in terms of fans fans being fans of him. like but I think that it's something the Clone Wars does a lot. Like I've talked about with Count Dooku, they take one aspect of
Yeah,
what we see in Attack of the Clones and then ramp it up for some reason. It's the same thing here. They saw in Revenge of the Sith how Mace Windu kind of was dismissive of
take a
Anakin and
seat.
such. Yes, and they were like, "That's his trait," which is funny because I just remember seeing a Attack of the Clones deleted scene where Mace Windu is actually defending Anakin Skywalker to Obi-Wan, being like, "You need to
Interesting.
trust your Padawan." So I don't think that it was like always intended for Mace Windu to be like a total asshole until the Clone Wars. Like even in
I,
Shatterpoint, he's not
yeah.
like that.
I always took it more of, and kind of how they portrayed him in Tales of the Jedi. He's just more strict when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to the rules, which is interesting with the whole the pod thing and
Mm-hmm.
like channeling someone else's
Yeah.
dark side against them and all that. It's like you think he would be more open to
Mm-hmm.
just different perspectives, but I think that also falls into the downfall of the Jedi
Right.
itself. And he's like
Yeah.
the High Council's like they're the leaders in charge of the way the order's
Mm-hmm.
working. So
And I think that when people look at like the faults of the Jedi and how they lost their way, I feel like Mace Windu has really become like the
the
personification of
scapegoat,
that.
or
Yeah.
well, yeah.
Not even scapegoat so much as just like, you know, the the things that he inhabits, the way he acts is exactly the reason why the Jedi are like losing their way. They just have this tunnel vision. They feel like what you know. Fuck the Jedi, man. That's just all I gotta say.
Well, Stephen Barnes, do your work.
Yes, yes. And finally, the last thing happening in 2024. Well, maybe not the last thing. I feel like there's the possibility of them announcing something and then it comes out a few
Oh
months later.
yeah.
But the High Republic Phase 3 will continue in 2024. Started in 2023, will end in 2025. It'll mostly come out in 2024. The High Republic Phase 3, dealing with the damages of Phase 1, the fall of Starlight Beacon, the Nihil, fucking everything up. And what are the Jedi going to do? How is the High Republic Phase 3 going to lead into the Acolyte? Or some of these projects we've seen recently, like Jedi Survivor, will we get to see Dagon Gera in the High Republic?
Oh yeah. That get me to jump into a High Republic book real quick.
Yep. You'd only have 27 novels to read before that one, so you can understand it fully.
I'll just watch a YouTube review.
Yeah.
I'll use
Shout
my
out Star Wars Explained.
resources. Do my research like Eman Esfandi.
Yes, you're gonna research Dagon Gera as if you're in a biopic. Love that.
Yeah, and then I will be playing him. So watch
Yes.
out. Sorry,
Yeah.
Cody Fern.
Well, if you couldn't tell, neither of us read the High Republic, but we're happy for those that do.
I'm excited. Everybody I hear talking about it is like just loves it, and I'm upset that
Hmm.
I don't read it, but I didn't read when it started, so now I'm kind of fucked. So
Yep. Well,
I'll
maybe
get to
we'll
it in 6 years, like when I
yeah.
got into Shadow of the Sith and just read that.
And in 6 years we'll do a collective episode about the High Republic. No, but I really think that once the Acolyte comes out, I think more people are gonna get into it. And we saw that a little bit with like Jedi Survivor. Saw a lot of people that
Yeah,
were like, "Let me jump in now." Now that it's plaguing the entire Star Wars universe, let's make sure we understand what's going on. Also, I said plaguing; it makes it sound negative. I like the High Republic. The books that I read.
Plagueis.
Yeah,
What?
I like the High Republic books that I read, but like Scotty said, it's just a lot. I said this last episode. It's like I started out. They were like, "All right, this phase there's gonna be 3 novels. There's gonna be like a few comic series, and you have 6 months to read all of this."
Good
Then the
luck.
second phase, they were like, "All right, here's 9 books. Here's 12 comics. There's a VR experience now, and there's a manga and all this other shit. Now we got the animated series. The Acolyte coming out, I'm like, man, I can't keep up with that.
I'm just hoping Leslie Headland will let me know everything that I need to know in the
Yes.
show. And
Yes.
I'm excited for everybody. Everybody I talk to has been they like listen to the audiobooks and I'm like, that's how y'all get through this shit. That's
Yeah.
how you stay up to date. But I can't be
Mm.
listening to an audiobook and doing anything else or else I'll be tuning it out. So
Yep. That's exactly my problem. I'll try to do the dishes or whatever. It's weird because, like, if I'm listening to a podcast or something, I'm fine. Like, I can grasp it.
I
So,
have to hone in when it comes to like books. I just have to
yeah.
be like
Yeah.
so.
That's what happens when we didn't grasp comprehension until the 12th grade.
Shout out to my bestie Kendra. She got me a book light so I can read in bed
Damn.
and not like be wide awake. So maybe we'll see how Republic students them later.
Yeah, yeah. I forgot to ask this, but I should have asked it before. Do you plan on reading The Living Force and the Glass Abyss in 2024?
I do plan on reading The Living Force. Um,
Hmm.
Glass Abyss, I'd like to read, but that may be like I got this book and then I read it a year
Hmm.
later because I'm
Yeah,
interested in it. But Mace Windu's not my favorite character,
yeah.
so I don't necessarily need. It's not.
You're
I
not
have
clamoring
friends.
for more Mace.
One of my friends is a big Mace Windu fan, so I'm gonna try to get him to read it.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
we'll see.
Yeah, sure he'll love it. But yeah, that's 2024 for you. We asked you guys on Twitter what you were most excited for in
Mm,
2024 out of all the projects we just talked about. Here's some of what you guys said. Nell for now says, The Bad Batch Season 3. I'm ready for them all to come back together and live their lives on Pabu as one big happy family.
honestly,
We can only hope.
I want to be
Um,
there too.
but with the way Bad Batch is going, I feel like they're trying to break our hearts. So we'll see what happens. Starlight Andrews says, definitely got to be the Acolyte for him. I'm excited for something completely different in terms of live action shows. Agree.
Same, Andrew.
Yeah. I think that, with it being an era that hasn't been explored in live action, with bringing in elements we've seen before, but also making something refreshing and new, I think it's going to be great. I think the Acolyte is going to be Andor with the fantasy elements.
Andor with the Force.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, and on YouTube, we did a little poll asking you guys same thing, and our winner with 51% of the votes is the Bad Batch season 3. 51% of people are super hyped for Bad Batch season 3. I wonder if that's just because that is the only familiar project really in 2024.
Honestly, I didn't think about that before, and now part of me kind of does. But I feel like people really love the Bad Batch.
Oh
Like
yeah.
we love animation, but there are just like hardcore Star Wars animation fans specifically that love those characters. Like I love them, but I kind of love it all.
Mhm.
Um, Whereas I feel like there's some people that are just people really like the Bad Batch.
Yeah.
Uh,
100%.
so I was surprised,
Mhm.
um, but
Yeah. I mean
it's a good
like
surprise.
within the fandom, there's all these sub fandoms. Like we have the Raylos. Like we have the
Oh,
prequel stands.
it's the
The
clones.
Yeah, the clone fandom is one of the biggest ones. The clone fuckers. Who,
Well, don't worry, y'all. We'll be covering the Bad Batch every week when it comes out. So
yes,
hopefully you'll be able to enjoy it with us and keep up because it's going to be a lot, but it's going to be
yeah,
good.
16 episodes. All right, let's answer some questions. Every week on the podcast, we're going to be answering some questions. You guys can ask these questions to us on Twitter. You can respond to any tweet from us. You can swipe up on our stories on Instagram, comment wherever. We're posting things. So just follow us on social media, and you might get your
Yeah,
question
you don't want to
answered.
miss anything.
Yes. All right, Kralin27 from Instagram asks, "Do you think Abeloth is the one calling to Balin Skull?" Sure, why not?
Before Dave Filoni, Dave Filoni. Um, Before Dave Filoni's promotion, I'd say probably not, but
Mhm.
afterwards, he'll bring the weird.
Oh yeah.
So I don't think it's out of the question.
Mhm.
We know that they're pulling from Legends if they can, if they have a place for it to fit. in the current canon, they're not afraid to pull from it.
Right.
So I could see it,
Yeah.
but
I don't see why not. Because like you said, if it connects, if it's something that exists from Legends and you can find a place for it, why not? I mean, we see him standing on a mountain, Mount Rushmore of the ones,
Mount Mortis.
Mount Mortis. And
Well,
obviously Abeloth is connected to Mortis. So there you go.
I also thinking about the themes of, and I don't know a ton about Abeloth, but I know she was cast out of Mortis essentially,
Right.
and they call her, what is it, Mother of Chaos?
Yeah,
And it's almost like that would be pretty poetic for Balin to be searching for this kind of higher power, but almost like him, it's kind of fallen from what it was initially set out to be. So I feel like there's definitely a connection there that could be made between the two characters.
for sure. Yeah. Just have to wait and see, but I definitely am not opposed to the Abeloth thing. My only concern is just like everything with the Mandoverse. I'm like, where do they have a place for that? But I think a lot of that comes with we don't really know what's next. We know there's a Skeleton Crew, we know there's a Mando season 4, and we know there's a movie. There could be
Yeah.
10 projects in between then. There could be no projects in between then. We don't really know. Uh, ARH underscore SR underscore 83 asks, do you think Dave Filoni would have done a better job with the Rey trilogy than Kathleen Kennedy? I'm assuming you mean the sequel trilogy. If that's the case, um, no. Dave Filoni, he's not a producer. I'm assuming the person that asked this question thinks that Kathleen Kennedy wrote and directed the movies, which is a common misconception online.
My thoughts on it, and I'm just going to talk about Rey as a character and kind of that trilogy.
Mhm.
I don't know because yeah,
Yeah.
he did Ahsoka, but he did 7 seasons of her, uh,
Hmm. And
and
did not get it right at the start.
countless episodes, and he went into it knowing he was gonna have all this time to tell his character. People like to compare Rey and Ahsoka and the development that each character got, but like you can develop a character in a
Mhm.
movie like you can in 7 series of a show, even 3 seasons.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know. And
Yeah.
then I'm like, are they maybe asking about the new Jedi Order movie that may be a trilogy? Um,
Yeah. But then
I
in that
hope
case, he's gonna be involved. So
I was gonna say we've talked about this, off of the podcast, but I like the idea of him being involved, so maybe we can get some of that cohesiveness between characters that may still be around if they have somebody from animation they can pull in, because that was missing in the sequels.
oh yeah.
Like they said, fuck everything but the original trilogy. Essentially,
Yeah.
those are our only connections.
Yeah. I think a better question here would have been, would Dave Filoni have done better than J.J. Abrams and Ryan Johnson? To which I would say, there's areas where I think he would have done way better, and there's areas where he would not have done good at all. 2015, he'd only directed a handful of episodes of the Clone Wars. Obviously, he's the showrunner, but he's only directed and written a handful of those episodes. I think that as the writer of the sequels, I think he would have brought in something closer to what George Lucas was looking to make.
Something more mystical.
Right. But in terms of directing, if Dave Filoni was the director, the movies would be 100 times worse than they are because
Oh,
that wasn't his thing
yeah.
until now, which a lot of people don't realize that that's something Kathleen Kennedy, when she became in charge of Lucasfilm, that was one of her biggest things was let's invest in Dave Filoni. Let's get him to the point where he's telling
Mhm.
live action shows and movies because he's the key to all of this. But we can't just throw him into it because
Yeah.
that's not fair. And I think fans would have hated Dave Filoni if he directed the sequels
I
because it would
mean,
have been garbage.
don't forget to anytime Dave or John does anything in their Mandoverse shows that fans don't love, they're already like, "Oh, they're
Yeah.
horrible. They're
Hmm.
dumb. Get rid of them." And it's like, "Oh, but then 2
You
days later, you're like, "Give them the key to Star Wars."
right.
Like,
People, man. But
but we appreciate the question nonetheless.
yes, we do. And like we said, follow us on social media and you can get your question answered. Also, feel free to comment in the YouTube comments on any episode. We're going through
Yeah.
them. We're going to get your comments, questions answered because we want to interact with y'all. All right, but this has been fantastic start to the 2024 season of This is the Wayseekers. An amazing episode, kind of looking at what we'll have to look forward to this year.
A jam-packed episode. It's so exciting.
Yes, yes. We'll be covering all of this this year. We really want this podcast this year to feel like a companion piece to Star Wars. Like, you come to us to know what's going on in Star Wars. And so we're really excited to be covering the Bad Batch, Acolyte, Star Wars Outlaws, Tales of the Jedi, blah, 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 blah.
Well, to make sure you don't miss anything this year with all the stuff we're covering, make sure you follow us on social media. Leave us a rating where you get your podcasts, and may the force be with you always.
Bye.